guys, and welcome back to my kitchen. Happy Good Friday, and because it is Easter time, I'm going to be making some pizza Rustica, okay, which I am going to make the dough from scratch. Now, I was going to use the pie crust, but I decided to show you how to make the dough. If for some reason it doesn't work out so good, I'm switching over to the pie crust, all right? But hopefully it'll work. All right, guys, so I'm going to show you guys what you need to make the dough. So if you want to come in, I'll show you the ingredients that you need. All right, so what you're going to start off with here is I have 4 cups of regular flour, all-purpose flour. This is about 1.5 sticks of very cold butter. What I do is I cut it in cubes, and I put this in the freezer. So it's got to be very, very cold or it's not going to come out right. Now I have here 4 eggs. In this little cup, I have 1 teaspoon of baking powder, 1 teaspoon of salt, and 1 teaspoon of sugar. And then I have about 1/3 cup of milk. You don't have to use the milk. You can actually just use water if you prefer, or ice water. You want the water to be really cold. This milk is very cold. I also put that in the freezer. And of course, a little olive oil I always like to throw in because it helps with the dough get like stretchy, you know? First thing you want to do, okay, you want to add in your dry ingredients, all right? So I'm going to put my salt, sugar, and baking powder into the flour, and you're going to mix that. Sorry guys, my dogs were barking, so we had to cut it there. All I did was put the dry ingredients together. Okay, so the salt, the sugar, the baking powder, and the flour, we mix that all up. Now, what you want to do is start incorporating this very cold butter. Okay, you can put it all in together. Now, I don't have a food processor. I was going to do it in my large mixer, but because I don't have the food processor large enough to do this, I'm going to actually do it by hand, which is old school, but we're going to try it, all right? So what you want to do is, I have a pastry cutter here. You could use your fingers if you don't have a pastry cutter. What you want to do is get the butter all mixed into the flour, so it's almost like almost like crummy. Okay. Now, while I do this, we're going to pause right here, and I am going to tell you one thing though. Like I said, if you do have a food processor, my suggestion would be to use the processor. It'll be a lot easier. Okay. In the meantime, I'm going to go by hand. Let me get this all mixed up, and I'll show you what it should look like when I'm done. All right, guys, I did incorporate all the butter into the flour mixture, okay? Now, what you want to have here, it's going to look really crummy. Now, if you have large pieces of butter, keep working on it, okay? Again, use a food processor or even your big, like, KitchenAid. I didn't want to pull that out, so I just did it by hand, like I said. Okay, so now when you know it's ready to go, this is what you're going to do. You're going to pull off all the little crumbs here, okay? There's a little bit of butter. If the chunks are too large, like I said, keep going in there. But this should be pretty good. I'm gonna move this to the side. Now, one thing I always say, wash your hands. Always, always, always have clean hands before you cook anything. But especially when you're gonna be putting your hands in something. Okay, now to this, what I wanna do, see the little crumbs here? Look, it's like very crummy. That's what you want. You don't want it over mixed. What you're gonna do is make a little well here. Okay, clean hands, make the well. You're gonna put your eggs in. You can beat the eggs if you want a little bit. You don't have to. You're going to mix them in anyway. Okay, but you're going to put your eggs right in the well. Okay? And you're going to start mixing this in. You want this dough to be nice and pliable, okay? You don't want it to be too dry or too wet. So you're going to just work this in. Now, you want to get all your wet ingredients here. Now, I do like to throw in a drop of olive oil. Whoops, my hand's dirty because I put my hands in. I'm going to wash my bottle. A little bit of olive oil, not too much, maybe like 2 tablespoons. And I'm going to put in the milk. This is about 1/3 cup of milk. You could use ice water instead of the milk. Either one works fine. You could add water after this if it's too dry. All right, so I'm going to try to work this into a ball. You may have to add some more water. If it's too dry, you want to add more water or milk. And if it's too wet, you want to add more flour. All right, so I'm going to keep working on this, and I'll show you what it should look like when I have it together. All right, guys, so I was able to make the dough into a nice ball, as you can see here. Now, what you're going to do with this is you're going to wrap this. First, you're going to cut it. I'm going to cut most of it. Watch. We're using a springform pan today. All right, so I have to show you what you want to do. You want enough for the bottom and the sides of the springform, and then more for the top. So you don't want to cut it in half. You want to kind of cut it like in maybe like 1/3. All right, so you want to cut it more like that. You want more for the bottom because you need it to go up on the sides and everything, okay? So what we're going to do is take one portion of the dough and put it in saran. Take the other section and put it in there. You could do it all together and then just wrap it up and cut it when it's ready. but you can leave it in the refrigerator then when you're ready to use each piece. I just find it easier to do 2 separate pieces. All right, so this is gonna be for the bottom, and this is gonna be for the top. Now what you wanna do is refrigerate these, okay? Refrigerate them for maybe an hour, half an hour to an hour. You wanna get everything nice and set, get that butter and all those things combined in there. While this is in the refrigerator setting, I'm gonna start prepping all the filling and show you guys what you need for the filling and how to do that part. All right, guys, now it's time for the filling. So we have the dough in the refrigerator. Like I said, you have the 2 separate pieces. You could put it all together and cut it, but it's just easier this way. You can leave the top part in the refrigerator until you're ready to use it. All right, so now what I did, I just have to show you what I did here. This is the ricotta. I did 3 pounds of ricotta cheese, whole milk ricotta cheese. Now, what I did was yesterday, I put it over a bowl and I let it strain all the milk out of that cheese. Look at that, nasty, all right? But you want this as dry as can be. So if you're using a really good quality ricotta cheese, you don't need to strain it. But my recommendation is to strain it if you have your standard, you know, store-bought ricotta. Oh, look, it made a cute little design on there. All right, now what we're gonna do with this is you're gonna get it in the bowl. Get a nice big bowl. Okay, you're gonna get this in the bowl. Now, what you wanna do here is I have a cup of grated locatelli cheese. I have 7 eggs. I, of course, have fresh pepper, black pepper. And then now for your meats, what we're gonna do, I'm gonna show you what I have here. I have 1 pound of fresh mozzarella. Now again, the mozzarella sometimes gets a little bit wet when it's fresh. You can use the packaged one, it's got the lower moisture. So we have the fresh mozzarella. There's about 1 pound here. I have about 1/4, maybe a little more than 1/4 pound of the salami, hard salami. I have the prosciutto, I cut it up in cubes, and pepperoni. And I just put a little bit of parsley, fresh parsley for color. Now you can use any kind of meat you want. A lot of people use sausages. You take it out of the casing, you brown it, you cook it, and then you put it in there. You could use any kind of cheese, any variations you want. These are the variations I chose tonight because I think it's delicious. All right, so what you want to first do is you want to get your eggs incorporated into the dried ricotta. Okay, so we're going to do a couple at a time to get them mixed in. And then let me show you, I'm not going to make you watch me do this all now, but when I get the eggs incorporated, I'll show you how it's going to look when we get everything else in, okay? All right, guys, so I have the ricotta mixed up with the eggs, okay? And this is what you're going to have, a nice creamy, cheesy consistency. Okay, now to this, do not add salt because all that cured meat is full of salt and the cheese, so you want to make sure that you don't add salt to this because it'll be way over salty then. But you do want to add some pepper. I like a lot of pepper. You add as much pepper as you want, little, whatever you want. To this now, you're going to add your cheese. Get that all mixed in there. Again, that's about 1 cup of grated locatelli cheese. You can use Parmesan, but I always like the locatelli because that's what my mom always used. So that's what I'm using. So you're going to get this all mixed up. Now this filling is going to be really, really, really delicious. Now to this, guys, you're going to add in all your meats and other cheeses, okay? I used a cutting board. That's why I didn't bother putting on all separate plates. I'm going to just put everything in and start to mix it up, okay? And we're going to get this all combined, and then I'll show you what it should look like when it's all combined. But put everything in there together, and this is all the filling you need. All right, so let me get this mixed up, and I'll show you what it should look like before we're going to get the dough ready for the pan. All right, guys, one thing I forgot to tell you is when you started to make your filling, you should preheat your oven to 375, okay? And this is the filling. Everything is all combined and delicious. So now we're just going to set this aside. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to get out my rolling pin, clean my counter, get out a little bit of flour, and the rolling pin, I'm going to roll out the dough for the springform pan. I'll show you what you have to do with that. All right, guys, so I took my dough out. I cleaned my counter. I put a little bit of flour down. I took the large piece of dough out. We're going to do that. But what I did do is I buttered a 9-inch springform pan. Okay, butter it really well because you don't want all that nice dough to stick to the side, especially after you work so hard and spend all that money, you know? What you want to do with this, work real easy, okay? You're going to try to get this rolled out as about maybe like 1/4 of an inch thick. All right, and you want to try to get it as nice as you can. What you want to do is you want to work with this. Try not to break it, but if you do, it's okay because it will patch very nicely. Okay, what you're gonna do is just move it around. I did not put on an apron because I figured, what's the point? I'm gonna get flour all over me anyway, right? So I see some chunks of butter. I don't think I mixed it as well as I should have, but that's okay. That butter is gonna make everything really, really flaky and very, very tasty. Now, if you don't wanna use or make homemade dough, like I said, you could use pie crust, or even certain parts of Italy, I know they use pizza crust. Personally, I don't like the pizza crust. I think it needs to be a little bit more like buttery and flaky, you know, but that's all in preference. You know, it's all your preference. You can use that, but regular pie dough will be just as good. All right. Oh boy, I really left a lot of butter in here. Hopefully it's gonna be very tasty and buttery. All right, guys, so what I'm gonna do here, I'm gonna keep working on this until it's a little bit bigger and I can lay it. You wanna make sure it's large enough that you can cover the pan. It goes down the sides and out around the sides. And I'll show you what you do on how to get that into the pan and all put together nice and neatly. All right, so let's get this finished and we'll lift it up and get it on the pan. All right, guys, so what I did was I put the dough into the springform pan. Now, don't worry if you have little holes or little patches that are missing, because this dough, you can just grab a little bit of piece of it and patch it up. All right, if it's not thick enough, you want to add a little bit, just patch it up. Take a little extra piece. What I did do is I let it hang over the sides, and then I went around it and I just cut it. All right, it doesn't matter if it's not too neat because we're going to roll up the sides anyway and make a nice crust. All right, but look, see, it's like a little bit over here. See, I could add a little bit more. So I'm just going to go like this and make a little crust and kind of squish it in, and it all sticks together. Make sure there are no holes. You see that hole there? We're going to patch that hole up. Look. A little patch job going on here. All right, so we're gonna make sure it's all covered nice and neat. You want that pan to be completely full of dough, no holes, no cracks. And once that's done, we're gonna add your filling. So let's add the filling into it right now, okay? And what you wanna do is get as much of this in here as you can. It should fill up the pie very, very nicely. Nice, thick, lot of stuff in here. Wow. This is gonna be so delicious. Wow. Now, one thing I was just telling my daughter that every year for Easter, my uncle's mother was a baker, and she used to make the pizza rusticas every year. And every year she never forgot my father, how much he loved this meat pie. So she would send him a pie all for himself, and he would never let anybody eat it. So this is for my father. He's up there watching me, and I hope he's proud. All right, so guys, this now is the filling. We have a little extra dough here, which is nice. Now I'm gonna take the other piece of dough, and I'm gonna get it out, and I'm gonna flatten it out, just like before. I'm gonna roll it out, and we're gonna cover the top, and I'll show you what you do before it goes into the oven, okay? All right, guys, so I was able to assemble the whole pie. It's really, really heavy. So now you could do any kind of design on this you want. You can make the lattice, you could do whatever you want. I just did this very quickly. You could take a little fork and go around the edge to make a pretty little design. What you want to do is make a couple of slits in here because you do not want this pie exploding. So you want to put some nice little slits so that the air can escape, all right? So this thing will not overflow. Now, it actually looks kind of cute. It looks like little light coming out of the cross, right? I don't think so. I'm going to need my artistic children to help me with that one. Okay, so now you have some egg wash here, and we're going to just coat the entire top with the egg wash, all right? Now, I'm not going to bore you with this. I will finish it up, and what you want to do is, again, you have your oven on 375. I have a cookie sheet lined with tin foil. You can use parchment paper. And you're gonna put it on the lowest rack in the oven for about maybe 20 minutes. And then you're gonna move it up to the middle of the oven. All right, so the center rack. And you're gonna cook it anywhere between an hour to like an hour and a half. It really depends on your oven. You want it to be nice and golden brown and the center to be set. All right, and when that's done, we'll take it out and show you what it looks like. All right, guys, so it's out of the oven. It is very, very hot. So here it is. It is massive. Now, as it cools down, it will start to flatten out a little bit, okay? It's got to cool down and everything has to set in there. Now, the only thing is you cannot cut this, okay? You cannot cut it for at least 2 hours. Now what you want to do is leave it in the springform pan for at least 2 hours and refrigerate it, okay? And then if you want to take it out of the pan, you want to refrigerate it overnight. All those flavors will get all, combined, and it'll taste even better the next day. So you want this cold. Now you serve it either cold or room temperature. You don't serve it hot. There's a lot of regard in there, so, if you put it back in the oven, it might get mushy, so you want to keep it at room temperature, if not cold. So this is it, guys. So happy Easter. Have a wonderful day. I can't cut it because it's burning hot, and I have to let it cool down for at least, a few hours. So have a wonderful, happy Easter, and I hope you enjoy the pizza rustica. Again, it's for my daddy who's up there, and I hope you guys like it. See you next time.